Everything that I feel like I've done as a working human being in the workplace has always been to help people facilitate their growth and change. And part of that growth and change comes with self-awareness. And so that's kind of where you start. And I only say all of this because I had to do it myself. I had to do it all throughout my 20s and early 30s, which was like, who the heck am I? What makes me tick? I know what is pissing me off. So what makes me light up? And so all I really have wanted to do is bring humanity into the workplace. Really, many of us experience very similar emotions, but we have very different lived experience. That's what makes us different. But you and I both know what sadness feels like at its core. We both know what joy feels like at its core. But it's our lived experience that makes things a little bit different. And so I wanted to write a book that allows people to feel like they can bring their lived experience into the workplace. They can bring their emotional self into the workplace. I never want anyone to have to shield up. What I ask is that you have enough self-awareness of who you are to be able to also regulate your emotions so that they don't spill everywhere.
In a corporate world where all employees have great leaders with no egos that create fun cultures where people can do their best work, the employees and companies thrive while doing great things for the customers, themselves, and each other.
Well, we know that rarely happens. I'm Jeff Palacio. I have been a leader for over 40 years for every t-shirt size company, from small 16 employees to extra large over 1 million. Please join me while I interview outstanding leaders that will share stories of great leadership and not so great. It will help you become a better leader while poking fun about all the crazy shit that happens in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Joe Deshawn, and welcome to the Corporate Couch with Jeff Palacio. Today's episode is brought to you by Palacio and Partners, providing turnkey podcast creation, hosting, production, promotion, and related creative resources for you and your business. Today, Jeff is interviewing Claude Silver. Claude is a speaker, podcaster, and LinkedIn voice on modern leadership. She holds the title of Chief Heart Officer at VaynerX, where she is redefining leadership with empathy, emotional intelligence, and heart. During her tenure, Vayner has scaled from 400 to 2,000 people across 11 countries. She has also helped lead Vayner Media to win Adweek's 2022 Breakthrough Agency of the Year Award. Claude founded an outdoor adventure and surf company in San Francisco, became an outward bound instructor, and immersed herself in transpersonal psychology, Buddhist teaching, and the study of human potential. Before joining Vayner, she held executive roles in several global advertising agencies. You can learn more about Claude at claudesilver.com. Let's listen as Jeff talks to Claude.
Claude, welcome to the Corporate Couch today.
Wonderful to be here, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my God. I just so honored that you came on the podcast. Brad Hill, a friend of mine in Kansas City, introduced us last year at some time. I think we had 2 scheduled last year, but you were ill and things happen, I get. But very excited to talk to you. You know, you have such a terrific journey. I love when he told me, you know, you were the Chief Heart Officer at, I think at that time, it was probably VaynerX or Vayner Media, whatever one it was. I was like, I so love that title. And when he said, yo, you're second in command to Gary Vee, and I'm like, oh my God, that's just so good. Like they put somebody, you know, because, you know, human resources has a bad rap, and, you know, and a lot of people say they're like finance people, they don't have a heart, but
I found one. I found one in there.
Yeah.
No, it's lovely to be here, and big shout out to Brad, who's a wonderful guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you're very transparent. You're on all socials and talk about your life and talk about helping others. But even though people that know you fairly well, is there anything that would surprise them about you, Claude?
Oh, God, yeah. There's a ton of things that would surprise them about me. I'll keep it PG. I think that's the safest place to go. But I would say I'm pretty much an introvert. That's pretty much the first thing I'll say, with the exception of when I am doing what I love to do, which is be with people and be that coach, be that guide, be that Sherpa. I'm very extroverted. I'm very much a cheerleader without the pom-poms. And I love that. And then I do a lot of just chilling and doing as much as I can to just like empty this guy out. And that doesn't mean I go meditate on a mountaintop or like, look at my navel all day. I don't. I kind of just space out.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's something that I think people would find different about who I am at work. Is always going to be the same person I am at home. I'm just a little bit more kind of like chill, listen to music, listen to the same music on repeat. I'm a big 80s girl. I love goth music. I love The Cure, Depeche, Echo the Bunnymen, trance. So that's like, if you want to find me someplace in the summer, it's usually in like one of those retro concerts of like Love and Rockets or The Cure or Psychedelic Furs or something.
Love it.
That's
we had an Instagram exchange. I had trouble sleeping one night, and I got up, and you had posted on Instagram that what was the first, you did an icebreaker. What's the first concert you ever went to?
Yeah.
And I forget what yours was, but it was some 80s band, and a lot of your teammates didn't know the band.
Thompson Twins.
Yeah, Thompson Twins. And I said, well, imagine if my first concert was Styx. Imagine that. And you said something like Pieces of Eight. You named some Styx album.
Yeah. Well, then I probably played Renegade for the next.
Yeah, Renegade. Right. Yeah, I think it was Renegade.
Like on repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So like this mind is great for remembering lyrics, like great at remembering lyrics, remembering poetry, which are lyrics as well, remembering people, but not much else. There's no like equations I keep in here or anything else.
Right. I listened to a podcast you were on. I can't recall whose it was, and I think this is when you were chief art officer at just VaynerMedia, because it was about 800 employees. But like you had a system somehow, or your memory, that you could remember their kids, and I mean, is that? I mean, no CRM. I think you told the host it was I guess Excel spreadsheet. But I mean, that's beautiful. One, I mean, I've never led, been responsible for 800 people or more. But I think it's a beautiful attribute. But talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we're 2000 now, and I definitely don't remember everyone's name or where they're from and whatnot, which just goes to show you how much I can contain.
You got to 999, and then after that, it was...
I did. I really did. When Gary said to me, I think it was going from 2000, it was 23 into 24, and I was going through kind of like the next year goals. What do you really want me to do? And he said, I want you to get to know every single employee, all 2,000 people. And so I actually did create a spreadsheet and a grid that way.
Yeah.
I didn't get to all 2,000 people. So I'm still chipping away at it. I remember patterns, I remember patterns. And I think, and I talk about this in my upcoming book, that I'm dyslexic. And one of the gifts of dyslexia was for me to find different ways of learning and retaining information so I could, go to school, so I could pass a class, so I could graduate. And all of those things were very difficult in my adolescent years. But what I did realize is I have an uncanny ability to remember certain things about people. And that's not going to be what team you work on necessarily. It's going to be what we spoke about in one of our conversations.
Right.
So maybe you're a drummer, maybe you support your family, maybe you grew up in Haiti. It's something like that, which I'll always be able to come back to when I see that person again.
Right.
Like, well, how's your family? How are you doing? Whatever that is. So, but I really think I guess somehow inside I found that way of making sure I could retain things about people, and certainly people that I care about. So I might not get your name right all the time, but I'm always going to remember, you grew up in Peekskill, and, you're in Kansas City now, and we met through Brad. Like I'll always remember that.
Right.
You can test me in 10 years. And,
okay. Sounds
so
good.
yeah, people, I think at some point we create our own systems for navigating our lives and certainly navigating our responsibilities. And that's one of my systems. I guess that just kind of came up organically.
Yeah, I think this is my personal podcast, but my business is I host and create people's companies' podcasts, whether externally facing, try to attract great clients, or I'm the joy I have in it is internal podcasts for culture building. I think it's beautiful for sales forces to get messages out in a funny way, and same thing. But I think it also humanizes senior leaders, and I think the beauty of what you do is you're very transparent on your socials, so they get to know you. So that time you do drop into the remote office or even Hudson Yards, a headquarters, and people haven't met you before, they see some commonalities because you just got into cooking and you were never a cook, and now you're posting, I got the turkey going, I got the Brussels sprouts happening, so I love that. I mean, it's because titles, whether we like it or not, come with, oh my God, this person's the CEO or the chief heart officer or the like they're like afraid and a little bit. I mean, but we're all humans at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because like I have a phenomenal title, and I'm so fortunate for that, because it's also
the best title. The best.
I have a best title in rock and roll, and it matches me. So I really get to embody it.
Yeah.
And when people say, oh, I want to be just like you, or how can I be a chief heart officer, or this and that, it's like, no, you don't want to be like me. You want to be like you. Like, I'm doing this my way. And if you have a heart to help and you want to be in service, then I believe that you could be a chief heart officer, and you're going to do it your way based on what you see, what you pick up on. This is Claude's way of doing it. And it works. It's working. So yeah, there are tweaks, and I learn things from other people that are, much wiser than me in terms of how to connect with 2,000 people. But I like it. And I want to get rid of any kind of stigma or fear of like, oh, that's Claude, or, oh, that's Gary. Like that's, I think, one of the things Gary's remarkable at, which is what you see is what you get. And he really, really puts that into the water stream.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
So like it or not, that's what it is. And I just don't want anyone thinking like, oh man, I'm the shit. Like, no, I'm just like you. I've had to fall down 1,000 times and stand up, 1,001 times. Like, that's why I'm here today.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, so it's okay for your employees, your team members to throw out F-bombs at meetings, since Gary does it all the time on socials, or?
Yeah. I mean, he does it all the time, period. So it's somehow, gotten, it's a bit of a habit in some pockets at work. And then some people are really just like, ooh, no, I don't like that word.
Well,
so
yeah, right.
You read the room.
Yeah. It took me a long time. I was 35 plus years of my career, and I was at a startup animal health company, and the controller used to throw the F-bombs out in meetings. And I was just like, and I don't have a problem with F-bombs, being from New York. I mean, part of the language, but I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. You're like, whoa, okay, I guess that's all right, cool, moving on.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, talk about let's just get right into the book, because it talks, it's going to obviously blend into, how you build the culture at VaynerX, but what was the impetus behind it? I love the title, Be Yourself at Work. So talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, everything that I feel like I've done as a working human being in the workplace has always been to help people facilitate their growth and change. And part of that growth and change comes with self-awareness. And so that's kind of where you start. And I only say all of this because I had to do it myself. I had to do it all throughout my 20s and early 30s, which was like, who the heck am I? What makes me tick? I know what is pissing me off. So what makes me light up? And so all I really have wanted to do, especially at Vayner, is bring humanity into the workplace, as you just said it. In our last 5 minutes, we talked about just like being human, right? We're all human. Really, many of us experience very, 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 very similar emotions, but we have very different lived experience. That's what makes us different. But you and I both know what sadness feels like at its core. We both know what joy feels like at its core. But it's our lived experience that makes things a little bit different. And so I wanted to write a book that allows people to feel like they can bring their lived experience into the workplace. They can bring their emotional self into the workplace. I never want anyone to have to shield up. What I ask is that you have enough self-awareness of who you are to be able to also regulate your emotions so that they don't spill everywhere.
Right.
So when I say be yourself at work, I am saying bring your messy, wonderful, wacky self to work, because all of that is wanted. And please, you want to get yourself in check. You want to be sure that you're not spilling and making someone else have to mop up after you.
Right.
So the more you can have self-awareness and understand who you are, regulate your emotions, function on emotional intelligence, which I really think is the game changer today. You bring that into your teams. You bring yourself into your teams, thus bringing your vulnerability, your authenticity, your gratitude, growth mindset, and sharing that with a team then creates culture.
Right.
Culture is living and breathing. And culture is created every single day by every single person in that company or in that team or in that church or in that baseball team, whatever it is. And so there's a wonderful and great responsibility that we all have, as long as we can be ourselves. Because when you're operating as not yourself, it's just fake. It's phony. Yeah. And you will become emotionally exhausted trying to be someone that you're not. And also, like, people are going to pick up on it. Like, knock, knock, where are you?
Yeah.
So the genesis is all about how do we be more human in the workplace?
Yeah.
And it starts with you and me and Gary and that person, that person, and that person consistently, though. It's not a one and done. And one of the things I talk a lot about, Jeff, is how we trust first. So if I've already spent 3, 4, 5 months, we've spent interviewing you, you've gone around the bend, you've met everyone you need to and more, you get the job offer, and then you start work. Well, wouldn't it make sense to trust you? We've just spent 4 months getting to know you. Right. Unless all of a sudden you show up and you are a completely different person, then okay, the joke's on us. But why wouldn't we trust the person we just spent so much time and money and energy hiring? Right. So come in, do your thing. Well, like, there's nothing you need to prove to us other than who you were on that interview. That's what we want. Your curiosity, your expertise, your humor, all of that stuff. That's what we're not hiring for culture fit. We're hiring for skill set fit and the addition that you bring to the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. And just go back to kind of showing up as yourself, both as a team member and a leader. My journey in leadership, I felt, I was obviously myself. I brought humor into the workplace, but I was honed on Sprint when it was a startup. Now obviously T-Mobile, but we had a bunch of type A assholes and you kind of sometimes take a little bit of your boss's personality, not that my bosses were, but I mean, you try to model yourself that. Then I started meeting some leaders that were actually funny at work and they were themselves. I'm like, that's who I want to be, like, because that's who I am. Like, I like to sing at work. Like, I'm a terrible singer. But people know me like, oh, Jeff used to go around the hall sing a song, like, because I just, like doing it.
I love that, Jeff. It's so funny because I think it was 2006 or 7. I was at a agency in San Francisco, and I am known to just bust out in song, whatever's going up here. So it could be like 60s, 70s, 80s, and more. Yeah, like, I'm just singing something.
Just a radio station.
Yeah. And like, they would write down the name of the song that Claude was singing in that particular moment. And it's just like a human jukebox. But that's me.
Yeah.
That's part of who I am. And I, like many, many people, went to work not sharing myself.
Right.
I mean, we're Gen Xers, so no one really gave a shit. No one asked us about ourselves.
Right.
It was, you kind of come in, you do work, then you leave and you have a life.
Yeah.
And those days are long gone. And also, that didn't do any of us any favors, pretending like we didn't have to go to a doctor's appointment on a Wednesday or you didn't have therapy on a Tuesday night. Like, we're human. We had all of that. We had all of that stuff.
Yeah. Your puppy got up at 2 a.m. Your infant got up at 2 and you got 3 hours of sleep. You're going to show up as your best self, but your best self that day is not after, your best self after 8 hours of sleep or, whatever your standard is. It's like working out, like if you have 3 hours of sleep, your workout's probably not going to be as good as you had that 8 hours, right?
No, exactly. Yet you show up at the gym, which is great, but you want to show up like just as full body as you can,
Yeah.
as full of you as you can,
Yeah.
so that you can stand on your own 2 feet. You're
Yeah.
grounded. Not much is going to phase you.
Right.
And you can also be a real functioning member of a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of it too is like what I learned also was like it's okay to tell your team, "Hey, my infant got up or my puppy woke me up.
Yeah.
I couldn't get back to sleep. I'm working on fumes. Let's have fun, but like I might not you might have to tell me something twice because my
Yeah.
cognitive skills aren't as good."
Yeah. 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 Might need to run out to Starbucks a couple times.
Right. Yeah.
And that's totally fine. And that's super cool.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is again one of the gifts of a team, is that you can rely on one another. Someone can pitch in if you're a little low. Someone can pitch in if you're out sick. You can pitch in if that person had to all of a sudden take their kid to the pediatrician unexpectedly at noon.
Yeah.
That's that thing that I happen to love teamwork. I think that's really where all of this starts. And when I said in the beginning, like, I'm a cheerleader without the pom-poms, like, I just believe in us. I
Right.
really do. There's no reason for me not to believe, unless someone continues to show up and be a victim, or show up and not be able to get out of their own way after, 4 years of having the same conversation with them.
Yeah.
You're like, let's go.
Yeah. I've interviewed over 130 people on my podcast, and it's about their career journey. I love the messiness of everybody's career journey and how they changed majors, 8 times in college, or it took them 7 years. Or I had a great executive coach, Massimo Bacchus. He was dyslexic, went to 7 colleges, finally got a degree later on, kind of later in life like you. But I mean, it's just talk about kind of, your first college experience, and then you went to Colorado outward bound and really
Yeah.
changed your life. I love
Yeah.
that story. And, everybody sees you as the chief heart officer, and you're doing, talks at Google, and you're writing a book and all this great stuff. But the messiness of what, 19-year-old Claude Silver is a
Oh
little
yeah.
different, right? So talk about that.
Yeah. She was a big, big mess. I was just laughing, like, Massimo, like, yeah, I went to 7 colleges too. My brother's always saying to me, like, what school was that? What school were you at then? What school did you graduate? And, my
So
brother
many
is like,
beer mugs you have, though, at least.
yeah. Oh my God, those keggers, I tell you what. I never should have gone to college straight out of high school. I wasn't prepared. I was not a good student. I had absolutely no confidence in my ability to be a student. And I applied to many, many colleges, and I got waitlisted on one, which was Rollins College in Florida, which is the school I ended up going to. Thankfully, I played tennis, which was the gift. Other than that, I would have been sitting at home, which in hindsight probably would have been a great idea. But knowing me at that age, I found I was a beacon for trouble. I was a beacon for anything that would get me to break on through to the other side, anything that would get me to go fast, anything that would get me to be somewhat of a daredevil. I really lived on the edge. I liked living on the edge because I wanted to see how far I could go on the edge. And, some people can go very, very far, and some people peter out pretty quickly. I probably had a pretty good lifespan of living on the edge and pushing the boundaries and hiding all of it. That was the thing.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, when you're a bad kid, when you're a kid that finds trouble, you share that trouble with the other troublemakers, but you don't tell anyone else what you're up to. And so, stuff like that, bad stuff that I did to really live on the edge, stuff with, as I'd like to say, bad boys, bad drugs, bad decisions, really wound me up in a bad place. Like, when you do things repetitively to self-sabotage yourself, you have to pay that price. And it took me quite a long time to kind of get rid of some of those, I would say, patterns, those habits, and also kind of like those demons, of just being like, well, you suck anyway, so you might as well go down the hill this way,
Right.
And a lot of people struggle with self-confidence and self-sabotaging behaviors in adolescence. So this is nothing new. That, coupled with the fact that I was a really poor student, I didn't understand how to get better. It wasn't like, my parents took me to tutors and I had all the help I could get, but I couldn't connect dots in certain ways. So I really ended up thinking that I had this like missing chip, like this missing microchip in my brain And this is like, 1991, 1992. So, there was such a thing as a microchip around in our big ass computers.
Right.
Um, but I took myself out of school after my sophomore year. Just disastrous things happened. And then I just was like, I'm out of here. I got mono. My parents brought me back home. And then I told them that I needed to find the longest wilderness course. I knew I needed to get out of mainstream society and I needed to get my ass kicked. And that's actually what I said. I just I know I need to get my ass kicked. Sure enough, what is that word? Like, be careful what you ask for.
Right.
I found like the longest 93-day outward bound course, the longest ever, a whole semester. That journey really, really, really turned my life around for the first time ever. I've had other real pivotal moments in my life, just a handful more, but that was the first one. And that was the first one I said, oh, I know I need to get out of this situation because I'm going nowhere fast. And this is not the way my life's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to get clean. I had to clean up my act. I had to, put on a massively heavy backpack with, 9 young men, 18, 19, 20.
Right.
And here I am, 19, I guess, with 80 pounds on my back, the only girl, and hating life for the first part of that trip on Outward Bound, and really just praying I would break my leg at any moment. And then, one thing led to another, and I survived. And not only did I survive, I learned how to work within teams. I learned how to start to talk nicer to myself. I learned how to trust my body to be strong and trust my mind. And sure enough, I ended up after those 93 days, like being a very different person. I still had demons. That's not to say I didn't, but I was much more in control of my voice, the voices in my head. I was much more in control of like those self-sabotaging behaviors. I didn't cure them at all. That was the first time I did something for myself that like really gave myself a gift that was very avant-garde. It was not like, back to being a Gen Xer, like you went to college and then you got a job, right? You went to college for 4 years and you got a job. And so one of the funny, interesting, weird things is like for all my friends had that 4-year college education where they lived on campus or they made their best friends or they met their spouse and they were in a sorority or all of this stuff. And that's something I never had because I bounced from college to college, taking a class here, taking a class here, taking a class here. And so the good thing about that was I really learned how to depend on myself and I really learned how to get this in gear, get my brain in gear, because there wasn't anyone else necessarily to be like, I've known you forever. You got this, Claude, or like, Kappa Kappa or whatever it was. I really relied on myself a lot. And that gave me a lot of confidence to continue to take a step forward and take a step forward and take a step forward. So that's really kind of like my school experience. I ended up graduating when I was 28 from a phenomenal school in San Francisco called California Institute of Integral Studies, very spiritual, very Buddhist, very psychologically sound, learned a lot about positive psychology and Jungian psychology. And I found like, oh man, I'm interested in this. This lights me up, talking about dreams, talking about mandalas, talking about, Joseph Campbell and the hero within. That lights me up. And so that was really incredible for me to find, because then I was like, okay, there is something I got here. There's something like I can touch here. That's like, oh, I actually am good at psychology. I'm actually really good when it comes to listening and understanding human behavior. So that whole journey there, that whole cycle, which was 10 years, which feels like it was probably 50, but it was only 10 years, really untethered me in many, many, many ways and helped me get moving, by the time I was, when I was 30, I was definitely a very different person than I was at 20.
I read the excerpt of your book, and you were talking about songs. You had the 9-inch, the instructor. It was like your first 18. It was a series of 18-day tracks, and then you got a 2-day break or 1-day break, and you were just decimated at some point during the first 18. And you were out by yourself. The instructor came up to you. What's going on? What are you thinking? And you had this 9-inch nail song in your head.
I said to her, it was day one actually. And I said, that song by 9-Inch Nails, Head Like a Hole, Black Is Your Soul, I'd rather die than give you control. She's all, yeah. I was like, well, that's what I'm singing in my head. She's like, well, you better get another song in your head.
Are you drowning in boring corporate communications? Palacio and Partners is here to rescue you. We transform internal podcasts from snooze fest to must-listen content that actually connects your team and strengthens your culture. Imagine podcast episodes that make your employees laugh while staying informed. Our founder, Jeff Palacio, doesn't just create podcasts. He creates conversations that break through the noise. Whether you're a growing startup or a massive corporation, we turn your company's story into audio gold. Leadership becomes human. Remote teams feel connected. Your message cuts through the clutter. Palacio and Partners, where corporate communications gets a fun makeover. Let's make your podcast work harder than your email inbox ever could. Jeff is happy to share his insights on podcasting with you. You can contact him via LinkedIn or schedule a Zoom call via the link in the episode description.
Well, you better get another song in your head.
Love that line.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah.
And like, no offense to Nine Inch Nails, but like, that's not that didn't pump me up.
Yeah.
That was like, you suck, you suck, you suck.
Right.
So yeah, that was day one. And then I had a whole 18 days to get through until I got that break. But that was a big wake. It was the first wake up call, I would say, on Outward Bound.
You obviously were in great shape. I mean, you're carrying 80 pounds and all that, and it seems you're still active today. And I heard on one podcast you want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So, talk about kind of your, kind of fitness regime and things like that keep you on the top of your game.
Well, for all of you out there that have had young children or have young children, that's my fitness routine right now. My fitness routine is running around on a basketball court or kicking a soccer ball with them, watching them on a scooter. I can't go on a scooter. I just broke my wrist. I'm just recovered from it. So I think if I went back on a scooter, I'm asking for it. Running around with those kids does a lot for me. I do yoga with the kids too, which is really, really fun. I have a 4-year-old and a 6.5-year-old. As soon as my wrist is back in shape, I'll get back on the tennis court, which is something that, and hitting golf balls. But I'm not a gym head by any means. I think at my age now, we know that like strength conditioning is much better than like cardio conditioning. So lifting weights and making sure like my balance is good and like I'm going to be here for a long time. So the first half of my life, the first 50, quite frankly, I was without kids.
Right.
Now I'm on the back half. I'm on the back 9. So I got to make sure I've got all that stamina.
Right.
And I, listen, I love being outdoors. I think one of the great things about moving from New York City to New Jersey was the access to the outdoors. And, hopping on my bike doesn't mean I have to go down to the basement and unlock it and take it out. It's in the garage. So those kinds of things. I love active sports. I love snowboarding. It gives me, when I talked to you a little bit a while ago about, loving to push the boundaries and just that need for speed and riding the edges, like snowboarding is one of those things that takes me close to a dangerous edge, but I can come back from.
Right.
And I still need that. I need that in my life. Like, not that I want to distract, but I like to go fast. What can I say?
That's you.
Yeah. So anyway, my fitness regime really is making sure that I'm active and I'm doing something and I'm working on my strength every day so that, at 101, my kids aren't pushing me around or my grandkids by that time. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Have you read Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I think you would like it.
Amazing.
He has something called the I always mispronounce the word for 100, Centenarian Olympics or decathlon, he calls it. And it's whatever your 10 events you want to do when you're 100.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Done. That's done and done. Yeah. Like my girls do gymnastics. I can't do a somersault to save my life, but then I can get into the pool and do a somersault with them there. So
there you go. And you have a hell of a cannonball, I heard.
Yeah, hell of a cannonball. Wakeboarding, water skiing. I don't know. I'm very lucky that I have the ability to do these things when I can, and also that I have a body that's still thriving. even though, I'm in my 50s, I feel like I'm 23, just a wiser 23 now.
There you go. Hopefully that's the case,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We hope.
Talk about the in your book. You talk about the three emotional pillars of showing up, and I think it's emotional optimism, emotional bravery, and efficiency. I think, but talk about those because
Yeah.
that's really intriguing to me.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because not only are they very important to me, and I've studied them in myself for a while, but I've watched them come to life within teams and culture. So emotional optimism is what you have inside. It's the hope. It's the belief that no matter what's going on today, it's going to get better tomorrow. It's not toxic positivity, and it's not Pollyanna. It's not like I broke my wrist today and tomorrow it's going to be healed. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But my attitude's going to change. I have the ability to change my attitude. I'm in control of that attitude. And also I can get support. If I'm stuck, I can phone a friend who can help me see the light. You know what I mean? So emotional optimism is really like, you have your emotions, but they don't own you. It's not like I'm sad. No, that situation made me sad, but I'm not a sad person.
Right.
Right. Or gosh, I'm really shocked, but like, no, the situation shocked me, but I'm going to get back on my horse again. Right. Emotional bravery is the action that you take after you have that belief, after you have that optimism. I can do this. It's going to get better. Then you take a step forward. You take an action. You ask your boss for a raise. You ask your boss for feedback. You ask your friend to go on a walk. You ask that person out on a date. It's the bravery, because you need action. And then what I have found is when those things are happening, and they're happening cyclically and all the time and in and out, there's a speed that comes from that, which is the efficiency part. So again, just to say, if I know I'm having a really crummy day today and my boss gave me some shitty feedback, I'm going to work through that. I'm either going to go talk to my boss again, talk to a friend, talk to someone who can coach me through that. Tomorrow's a new day. I get to start again with a brand new piece of paper and a brand new kind of a clearer head. And I'm going to take a step forward. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to go back to my boss and say, you know what? I got your feedback. I understand. And within 30 days, you're going to see this change in me. And then you start to see the speed, because I'm a believer now. I'm a believer not only in myself, but in the action. I saw myself take an action.
Right.
I now know that I can do this. 2 + 2 = 4. I can do that with my eyes closed. And if you're in a team, that's where you all have understood each other's foibles. You understand each other's pitfalls. You understand each other's successes. When I win, you win. We don't have to talk about, well, you triggered me back to the time when I was 4 years old. Like, you don't have to go into all that mishigas.
Yeah.
It's literally like, we get each other. We've spent enough time together. Now let's move through it. And so something that Gary said to me a long time ago, and has said many times, is how I got to this emotional efficiency, which is the KPI of everything we do is speed. The way to get speed is to cut all of the BS. The way to cut all of the BS is by bringing in emotional intelligence, by sharing that we are a kind and collaborative culture over and over and over, and putting these things into the water on a daily basis.
Right.
And if everyone, for the most part, is paddling in the same direction, you will find that you are fast, because you have cut through all of that other drama, all of that other weight. Like, I get it. You have to take your kid to the pediatrician. So I got you. I'm going to step in here.
Right.
You're not going to have a lag in the system. Or you understand, I'm having a really bad day. I had a terrible fight with my spouse this morning. Okay, you're going to pick up the speed for me.
Yeah.
So it's the optimism of knowing it's all going to be okay. It's the bravery, which is taking a step forward and doing something about it, rather than just sitting there and being like, I know it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. Well, you got to do something about it. And then it's the efficiency and the speed of like getting it done, so we can get on to the next thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you're a big Brene Brown fan. I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan, and she was on Tim's, I say Tim like I know Tim, Tim's podcast. Anyhow, well, one thing she said about was her and her husband, they did a thing like, what are you at today? At 1 to 10, and if we're both at 8, it's all good. But her husband's at a 4. I got you. I'll pick you up because I'm at an 8, so I'll help you out.
Yeah.
It's that reminded me exactly what you just said about that. Yeah.
That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
so as a couple, they check in with one another.
Right.
As a team, you have different ways of checking in
Sure.
with one another, or you've spent so much time together that you can just sense that, Jeff needs a little pick me up today. Jeff
Yeah.
might need a little walk and talk today.
Yeah.
Right.
You can wear buttons with 1 through 10 on it. So when you're walking around, the headquarters or on your Zoom screen or Teams, whatever you use, you can put your number on your virtual background.
The reason actually I love that is because it really calls for truth and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so if someone's a 2, I would really want them to put they're a 2. So we know how to comfort and surround them with good vibes, surround them with like, I got you.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want this book to do, Be Yourself at Work, is I want it to feel like I've got my hand on the reader's shoulder. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you, and you got this. And that's what I feel like I do at work all day, whether or not it's conscious or unconscious, whether or not someone feels it or not. That's what I feel. I feel like my role is in life in many ways, which is like, I got you.
Yeah.
And you got this.
Yeah.
Not I got you and I can take it all on. I got you and you got it.
Right.
And I'm going to be here with you while you get it.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big Seth Godin fan. I went through his marketing seminar. It's a cohort program during COVID. Great. Why not? But one of the exercises was you looked at covers of books and what did the cover tell you? So now I look at book covers differently since taking that class in 2021. So what I got out of yours, besides the color, you have the B. The title is Be Yourself at Work, as you well know, but telling the listeners. But the B at Work is a different font, and kind of the yourself is kind of almost handwritten with underline. But what I see when I look at that, I see the B. And Ryan Holiday has one of his books is, or one of his blogs, whatever it was, we're human beings, not doings, and because everybody, it's this life hack and it's this and it's that. And at the end of the day, it's like, you can't work out 16 hours a day. It's like, it's not possible. We have to be and just be. And that's what I see when I looked at your book cover. I see the B. It just stands out to me. So it's I wanted to share that with you.
Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you for sharing that, because that B was so important to land. It was so important because it's an action word.
Right.
And that's what I want. Like, it's you being yourself is what we want. And the yourself, of course, underlined in a handwritten font is like, that's just my handwriting.
Right.
The way Jeff's going to write it is his own handwriting. Yeah. But that's what I wanted that to be very organic. Like anyone could just like sub their handwriting in, for it. But I hear what you're saying in terms of, we're human beings. We're not here to just do all day transaction after transaction after transaction. We're here to like be with our, it's probably the third or fourth time I've said just with you, like with our 2 feet on the ground.
Right.
That's that's our birthright, is to put our 2 feet on the ground and feel like we can be safe right now, right here. No one's out to get us. We can be psychologically safe to ask questions, to make mistakes, to, shout out an answer like that. That's what I want. I want that obviously in the world. That is going to take a lot of time and a lot of smarter people to figure that out. But in the workplace, I really feel like if we can allow people to be themselves and not expect them to be cookie cutters, not hire for culture fit, so they all look like you or they all look like me,
right?
Then we have a chance.
Yeah.
We have to really allow for someone to be able to speak in their language rather than sound like the PhD who manages them.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more. That's interesting. You said you don't hire for culture fit, but expand on that a little bit more, Claude.
Yeah. So culture fit is something like, hey, Jeff's applying for the copywriting job, and he dates my sister, and he also went to summer camp with my brother. Like, that's amazing. Cool. You're hired. Or Jeff's a Jets fan. Gary loves the Jets. We hire Jets fans. And if you have the right skills, great. And if you don't, great. We'll figure it out. So culture fit is same, rather than being curious about what you bring to the table, but hiring you because you're a top talent and you're going to take us from A, B, C to the moon. By hiring for your skill sets, which is what everyone is hiring for right now, because that's what we need. We want to get people in who are high performers, who can help raise the boat, right? And lift us and, help us succeed, help us are wildly successful, which is what everyone wants as an individual and obviously as a company. But if you hire for the fact that you and I both love Pearl Jam and we both saw them at, in 2011 at Red Rocks.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. We both love, but that's not a reason to hire you. Right. That's a reason to be excited once you come in, because then we can jam on all of the bootleg Pearl Jams. But,
Right.
So culture addition is where the diversity comes in. Culture addition is where the fact that you might not come from this country, you might pray to someone different, you have a different sexual orientation, you have a seen or unseen ability, right? Dyslexia, maybe you have ADHD, it's a different world out there also with the Gen Zers right now who, have different demands of the workplace and different needs that they are expecting to get met. It's very, very different world. So meaning, for example, the amount of people that come in and they say, I have ADHD, what are you going to do for me? It's a fascinating question for that we get, which is, well, we can give you this accommodation and this accommodation, but what are you going to do? You have it. So how are you going to help yourself? Right? It's a wonderful thing that people come and they tell us that, yes, we want to know, but that can't be seen as your handicap. That has to be seen as, okay, you're taking care of it, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to get you a tool that will help you, use AI because that's going to help you with your grammar, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I went to a seminar recently because I've talked several different times on my podcast with different guests. I think it's one of the hardest times to be a leader today because no leader in history has had to manage this many multi-generational, generations. So it's, you got the late, early stage baby boomers still working. And, even Gen Alpha, I think the youngest is 22, 23. So so and they give a whole thing on how to communicate and how baby boomers communicate versus Gen X versus millennials versus all that alphabet soup of. I asked the guy who's very, very knowledgeable, credible. I just said, "Who gets to name the
gens?"
And he goes, funny you ask. He goes, I don't know who does it, but he goes, the millennials did name themselves on social media. They voted for it, I guess.
They did. That's so funny. You know what? I actually think that's absolutely right because they were known as Gen Y.
Yes, right.
For a while, and then we're all like millennials. But it is fascinating. It's something I talk about in the book in the last section, which is how to communicate with each and every different generation, and also how to communicate in different roles. What do those different roles and those different generations need, right? So we need to be, I think the younger generations need to be really leaning in on our generation and the early boomers for mentorship. What if you could do it all over again, Jeff, what would you do? Great. That's a great question to ask someone like you. Right. Or what are the things you wish you knew then? Or what's the one piece of advice that you did get when you were just starting out in your career? It's going to be different than Gen Alpha today.
Right. Yeah.
So I really like the mismatch, mix match. I like the mishmash.
Mishmash. There we go. Yeah.
I like the mishmash because I like the idea of people collaborating together and learning from one another.
Yeah.
I do think there needs to be grace given for the different ways that different people learn.
Yeah.
But grace, I always want to make sure that grace doesn't come with entitlement. That's the thing that we don't want to create, because then, it's very difficult to come back from a culture that is saturated with, I get this, I get this, I get this. I deserve this, I deserve this, I deserve this.
Right. Obviously there's no perfect company, but so what? I mean, what things you see different maybe at VaynerX to make it even better than it is today?
We're so lucky. We're an independent company. And it's my first time working, I think, at an independently owned company where there's one founder, CEO, who is the end all be all decision maker if you need an end all be all decision maker. So I really love that. And I feel very fortunate because I've been given a lot of autonomy, as have many, many people, to go and create, such as this role and such as the offering that I bring. We are scaling like crazy. I think that the next horizon is probably more offices in different parts of the world, whether or not that's South Africa, whether or not that's the Middle East, whether or not that's South America. The interesting thing is what Gary is so wise when it comes to selling and marketing and social media excellence. I mean, there's no one else like him. He is such a student of the consumer. So what will be really interesting for us is to continue to use that kind of thinking as we go into these other cultures, which you and I know nothing about.
Right.
You and I, the average person in America knows very little about working in the Middle East, right?
Right.
We have offices all throughout Asia. I know very little about working in Asia. So my next task is to spend some time in Asia coming up so I can get to know, I want to know that those people who are in our Thailand office or Singapore or Indonesian office feel what I feel, or at least feel something about the culture. And hopefully it's positive, but if it isn't positive, then I know what to deploy so I want them to feel what I believe most people feel in our other offices, which is like, this place is going somewhere. We're creating something very different. We work for a disruptor. And because of that, we are able to push the envelope just a little bit further every single day. Not all clients want that, but we still push it. At the end of the day, sure, we're servicing our clients. We're in partnership with our clients, but we're always going to show them what is possible, even though they might not be ready to put all of their social into organic reach, for example, and they want to put money behind paid or whatever. So that's getting more tactical. But at the end of the day, do the behaviors I believe that create a Vayner citizen scale? That's my big question right now.
Right.
And are they scaling in a way that is productive for that region and that office? Not productive for Claude. This isn't the Claude show.
Yeah.
Are we making some waves over there?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it was an article or Gary gave you kudos on a LinkedIn video recently, but it talked about when you were named the chief heart officers, and it's every startup, small company founder has the issue of like, yeah, it's easy to know the first 50 employees, 85, whatever, but you were hired to scale Gary, be the heartbeat of the company, be the emotional framework of the company. I mean, it's just the scale Gary line was just so good. I'm like,
it's scaling the unscalable.
There you go.
The joke's always been, the joke's on me. It's always scaling the unscalable.
That's
because
funny.
there's nothing like having him in a room, and there's nothing like 5 minutes with him.
Yeah.
The great thing is we're two sides of the same coin. So they are going to get an enormous honesty from both of us, and they're going to get a different level of kind of probably emotion from each of us. Now, he is a massive optimist and is always going to go towards the sky, the arrows in the sky. And I'm a massive optimist, but I'm also emotional. And so I will spend time with someone kind of in the belly of the beast if we need to, really sussing out their imposter syndrome, really sussing out like what is preventing them from showing up today.
Right.
Why are they choosing to micromanage when they know that micromanagement doesn't get them anywhere? Like I'll spend time there. So we've got a great yin and yang. We've got a phenomenal global leadership team that has really stepped up, I would say, their accountability to do a lot of this work too.
Yeah, very nice. Claude, anything else you'd like to talk about in the book as parting thoughts?
Well, I want to just put a note in there for you and Gary. Go Jets in 2025.
It's a long, it's a long road.
I know. No, I'm excited to be here, Jeff. It's been a long time coming. So I
Yeah.
thank you for your time and your patience
Yeah.
and letting me hang out with you.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind asking you two questions that I ask every guest. So if you're a recent college graduate and you have no idea how to get a job and what do I do to start a career, what advice do you have for them as they begin that post-college career journey?
Yeah, two things. One, I would lean on everyone you possibly know. So your parents' friends, probably, or your college professors, or your guy. Like, who do they know? And the other thing is, you don't have to create a career right now. I would highly recommend, if you don't have anything to do, you don't know what to do, go work at Starbucks and be a part of that team. Get benefits and be a part of a team and understand how a team works, right? Or go intern for pay if you can at that recording label that you are really passionate about. You don't have to decide the rest of your life right now. As a matter of fact, I wish you wouldn't. And right now is an awesome opportunity to try things out and try them on for size. And that doesn't mean quit if you hate it. It means just be curious about why you hate it. Yeah. But lean on your parents' networks for sure, or go into LinkedIn and start going through the jobs and seeing if your parents or your friends know of anyone at that job.
Right.
It's not hard. It just takes some footwork.
Yeah. The second group would love your advice. So not everybody's a leader. You don't have to have people underneath you on an org chart. But once you get that first managerial role where you're responsible for a team of people, what advice do you have for them as they begin that type of leadership journey?
Listen, literally go on a listening tour with whether or not it's 2, 5, or 30 people that you manage, and understand where they want to go, what their goals and aspirations are. Do they want to end up being a soccer mom and finishing work at 4:30 every day when they're 30, or not? And understanding kind of like where their passions are. We want to, as leaders and managers, you want to set them up for success. You want to put them in places of strength. So for example, you would never put me on a finance team. There's no way you would ever put me on a finance team. If you did, I unfortunately think I might disappoint you, even though I would try my hardest.
Right.
You want to put me in a position of strength, which is what Gary did. So listen, ask questions, stay curious, and invite the connection in. This is a time in which you want to connect with your people, not correct them, criticize them, connect.
Right. Claude, thank you so much for coming on the Corporate Couch today. I'm so honored, and you're so great. Just can't get over that title of yours, Chief Heart Officer. It's so,
we could
so
talk
good.
forever. Yeah, I love it, Jeff.
It.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Well, Joe, I'm just going to tell you how much I love talking to Claude Silver. I've been following her after Brad Hill, a friend in Kansas City, introduced us. The best title in corporate America, Chief Heart Officer, first title like that in the world.
Amazing?
Supposedly. I love it. Second in charge to Gary Vee, Gary Vaynerchuk, of VaynerX and VaynerMedia. She was hired to scale Gary as they grew the company and hired, so Gary is this, as she says, internally optimistic, just a force of nature. He's very active on social media, and he tries to help people. I think he's a 6-time author, New York Times bestselling author, and a New York Jets fan. And Claude did give me a shout out at the end. She at the end of the episode said, "Go Jets." I thought that was very kind of her.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Very kind of her. Went to 7 colleges. She was I don't know if she said she was a fuck up, but it's basically kind of like that.
She was not the best student.
No, but yeah, she had struggles. She went to Rollins College, the first one, and
not good grades.
We talk music. Yeah, so I love that. And I also learned, because Gary's on videos and social media, when he's doing webinars or whatever live, he throws the F-bomb out there. And so I had to ask Claude, are F-bombs allowed in meetings at the company? And they are. So I thought that was nice. Got that going for him.
That's culture. That's the definition of culture right there.
Yeah, and one of the things was a big takeaway for me was she said, we hire for skill set fit, not culture fit. So hiring for what that someone brings to the table, rather than how similar they are to existing team members. It's a culture addition is what they're trying to do, not just like get the same people.
So it's not that culture isn't a part of it. Culture is a part of it, but it's still a meritocracy.
Yeah.
Right? You're still hiring the person that's best for the job.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know. Then, she talks about in her book the 3 emotional pillars: that optimism, bravery, and efficiency. And their KPI is speed. And she says that when people are transparent and bringing their authentic self while regulating your emotions, because you can't dump on people how you're feeling that day. You have to have some boundaries around that, but that brings trust. Trust brings people that can bring things to market or solve solve problems faster, innovate faster, and so on. So I could have talked to her another hour easily. So, but it was so fun for me, and it was an honor to have her on the Corporate Couch.
Yeah, I could tell that you were definitely in your groove while you were talking to her, that this was just like we were eavesdropping on the two of you talking at a Starbucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you didn't have a clock in front of you, you could have just gone on, and I think that's great. It was a very, very interesting interview that I really enjoyed. One of the things that she talked a lot about was about mental health issues with your coworkers. And she kind of encouraged people to say that you shouldn't just use the standard or trite, how you doing? You should really, with your coworkers, ought to be asking, how are you doing today? As a sincere measure.
Yeah, we talked about the Brene Brown concept of, are you at a 10, meaning, like you can lift up the building and sweep under it, or are you at a 1, mentally, emotionally, physically, or anything in between.
Yeah, and that's an interesting concept. I'm reminded of, if you've been watching the news, a couple of months ago, there was a big plane crash in India where the plane literally crashed moments after takeoff. Like the whole flight lasted about 30 seconds.
Yeah, right.
And that crash is still under investigation, but the leading theory right now about how it happened was that one of the pilots, they don't know which one yet, but one of the 2 pilots in the plane, literally 10 seconds after liftoff, reached down and flipped the switch that cut off the fuel to the engines.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so it was a murder-suicide. Cut off all the fuel of the engines. Of course, the engines die. You don't have enough altitude or velocity to turn around and make it back, or to recover from it, or relight the engines or anything. So it just went straight down. I was watching an interview one time where another pilot was talking about that accident. The person being interviewed was actually a airline pilot, but he was also had a degree that he was a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist. Wow. So he has patients, which are mainly in the airline industry, that come to him and talk about their mental health issues. And he said, you'd be surprised how many mental health issues there are in the airline industry with pilots and co-pilots, because they are under an incredible amount of stress. They don't get enough sleep. They're working all hours of the day. They have, just like playing right field in gym class, they have hours of boredom and moments of terror, So you can tell what my gym class was like in school.
Yeah, they put the least talented person in right field because they're not going to get a lot of
because everybody
action.
pulls the ball instead of... Anyway, and what he said was there are many more pilots out there with mental health issues than you could imagine. And that's the way it is with us. If you are in an office environment or on a construction site or in a sales environment or whatever it is, there are people around you that they need to hear, hey, how are you doing today? They need to hear that somebody is actually interested in them. And I thought that was an interesting insight.
Yeah. Joe, what's the latest with you? What's happening in your life?
Kind of goes along with what we were just talking about. I heard about a banana. The banana went to the doctor because he wasn't peeling very well.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Corporate Couch. If you enjoy the podcast, I would love for you to take 2 minutes out of your day to rate us 5 stars and write a review. Please join me next week to learn from another great leader sharing their professional journey and insights.